All right, so getting back into this level jumping and power vacuum conversation, Sacramento State is a really interesting case study of this. And I understand where they're coming from. This has been a really strong football program. Now former Stanford head coach Troy Taylor built his resume at Sacramento State to be Stanford's head coach, both in proximity and success. They've now hired Brennan Marion, who was the offensive coordinator at UNLV for the last couple of years. That was a part of their program ascension. Sacramento State is definitely a school that is on the rise, and they want to make the jump up to the FBS ranks. They want to do it, however, without a solid conference invitation. Word of warning to the Sacramento State community there. I get the urgency to get up to the FBS ranks. If you do not have a conference, I really don't think it's worth it. I don't. Couple of reasons why. Number one, you are going to struggle to put together a quality schedule, and you're going to have a problem branding yourselves when you are just out there. A great example of this is UConn football. Now, UConn has gotten a little more serious in the football realm over the last several years. Jim Mora Jr., who was formerly the head coach at UCLA and has been around the sport for a very long time, has actually made them a respectable team. Another independent team to consider is UMass. Tell me why UMass wouldn't be better off playing FCS football. And sure, they won a national basketball championship many, many moons ago. Play everything else at the FBS level, or what you'd consider FBS in other sports. You get what I'm saying? I think you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. Great example, Villanova. When you think Villanova, what do you think of? Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Dante DiVincenzo, all those guys starring in the NBA. But that program, Chris Jenkins, of course, Archidiakono, like a bunch of great names in there. So that program won 2 national championships in men's basketball in a 3-year span with Jay Wright, and is a historically great program. They play in the Big East. That's a legitimate conference. Did you know that Villanova football plays FCS ball? I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. And so if you don't have a conference to go to, it is exceedingly difficult to succeed at a high level. Because you're telling me if you're not going to get into a conference, you have no conference championship to play for that you can sell recruits on, that you could stack up in a trophy case. You're just playing football. And look, I enjoy playing college football for the love of the game. The love of the game does include at least conference championships. So that's just something to consider. Is that the ability to succeed can happen going from the FCS ranks. If you took North Dakota State and you put them in an FBS conference, and like any FBS conference, they could succeed. Heck, I think Big Ten or SEC would be tough, as with the Big 12 or ACC. They could do it. They could absolutely do it. Okay, they have been an FBS program masquerading as an FCS school for over a decade at this point. They are the Nick Saban Alabama dynasty of the FCS ranks, and schools have just now figured out how to beat them, and it's taken them a long time to do so. But that is an example of a program that I know can make that jump. The Montana schools, I think, fall into that category. I think the Montana schools, I've been to both campuses, by the way. They're fantastic. Their fan bases are rabid. They are phenomenal fans. Outstanding game day environments. The rivalry game, the Brawl in the Wild, it's awesome. It is legitimately awesome. It is one of the best, maybe the best FCS football rivalry in the country. If you wanted to elevate that to the Mountain West level, I can see that translating. But never in a million years would I even suggest North Dakota State make the jump up and not have a conference to play in. You're going to struggle with branding. You're going to struggle with recruiting. And you're trying to get to some bowl games. You're essentially stuck in the middle. Like UConn and UMass feel somewhat, UConn less so in the last couple of years, but they've been bad for a really long time. Those programs feel, to me, like they are stuck in between the Group of 5 and FCS ranks. Okay? You don't want to be halfway in and halfway out. 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on land. No, you are either jumping into the lake or you're staying ashore. Don't try and split the difference. So that's the biggest reason, frankly, is you're just going to have a difficult time putting together a quality schedule and then selling yourselves to recruits on the trail so that you can compete at a higher level. But if you're in a conference, that changes. The second reason is financially. Now, Sacramento State has shown an ability to raise some funds and to get themselves ahead of the curve as NIL and the portal have happened. And, they've made all these pledges and commitments and they're aggressively lobbying. If the Mountain West is not coming along with an offer and the Pac-12 doesn't ever see you as a potential expansion candidate, look, I would hold out for the Mountain West if I were Sacramento State. Keep dominating, or not dominating, but keep having a lot of success at the FCS ranks, playing in the Big Sky, which is a premier FCS football conference, probably the best football conference in the country. It's either that or the Missouri Valley. Those are the top two. You keep playing there. You have a level of postseason success to sell players and your fans and alumni and potential donors on as well. And one day the Mountain West, who is bringing in UC Davis, is probably going to one day examine the possibility of bringing you aboard. And look, maybe you'd be battling the Montanas for that particular membership. Okay, I'm not telling you it's going to be easy or everything's perfect. Maybe Conference USA wants to expand west one day. I don't know. But the competitive and branding element is also backed by a financial concern on my end. Because remember, these conferences give school, I don't know that it's making up a majority of their budgets. It's a non-zero amount though. And I don't want to go into any sort of situation with a disadvantage. And I think you'd be facing a dual disadvantage because you don't get conference media rights payouts. Who's going to broadcast your games? Where are you going to air them? Who's independent? Are you going to play 12 road games so that you can have your games on TV? Or are your games at home going to be on ESPN Plus? Is that going to get picked up? How exactly does that all work? So the NCAA Division I Council voted not to allow them because they don't have a conference affiliation. While my instinct is to say a school should be able to do what it wants, I get where the council's coming from here and saying, no, if you don't have a conference to go to, this is not going to be an automatically successful situation. So I'd keep your eye on Sacramento State for being a school that can make a jump to the FBS in the coming years. I just don't know that if they don't have a league to go to, and it would probably have to be the Mountain West or the Pac-12. If they don't have that, I'm sorry, that's just not going to be the best path forward for your football program, in my view, which is a really strong program. They've proven that. Keep establishing that brand. Keep yourself in people's minds. Try to figure a way to get to the national championship game. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.